Welcome back to another exciting episode of Aaron's Opinion, the podcast for blind people, where we talk about critical issues in the blindness community. I'm Aaron Richmond. Tonight's episode, like all others, is copywritten by me, Aaron Richmond, and Aaron's Opinion. Thank you. You can watch this episode right here on YouTube, as so many of you do. And of course, don't forget to follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, and even consider becoming a patron on my Patreon page. Aaron's Opinion 6 at gmail.com is the email address. And that email address certainly worked for our guest because he emailed in. So we're glad for that. 1240-681-9869. Telephone contributions after the fact, text message, voicemail, or if you just want to talk to me. And that is how to get in touch with the show. All right. Tonight we are joined by someone who says that they were born ready, a magnetic mind coach, life coach, a transformational speaker, someone who reached out to me from somewhere in the universe. His name is Julius Charles Serrano. He joins us right now. How are you? Welcome to Aaron's Opinion. Just basically from here, I would tell you to just dive right in, take our listeners for just go for it. You're on. Go.
Fantastic. Well, before I start, Aaron, I would like to just express gratitude to you for, allow for the work that you do first and foremost, for providing a platform for people such as myself who would like to share their story, their experiences and lessons that they have learned in order for us to educate, entertain, and inspire everybody who is watching here. Thank you for the work that you do, and thank you for your willingness to share this conversation with me.
Know that you are always welcome. Know that
Mhm,
it's also like pulling teeth getting a guest, getting someone from the audience to email me. So
mhm,
you are more than welcome here.
mhm. Fantastic. Well, hello everybody. My name is Julius, and as Aaron said, I'm a transformational speaker and I'm a magnetic mind coach. As a speaker, I combine 30 plus years of my life experiences, struggles, obstacles, triumphs, and various humorous experiences. I combine it with my wit in order for me to create and deliver talks that educate and inspire and transform people's lives. So that's what I do as a transformational speaker. Now, Aaron also mentioned that I am a magnetic mind coach. This is all about helping people, particularly IT professionals. That's the specific group of people that I serve. I serve IT professionals in their 30s and their 40s. I help them release their self-sabotage patterns and limiting beliefs in order for them to consciously create a life that they love, a life of abundance, success, and happiness. Basically, that's what I do. That's Julius in a minute or two.
It's basically what you do,
Mhm.
Julius, in a minute or two. All
Yeah.
right, all right, all right. Well, I'm already loving this episode, and this
Hmm.
is already really, this is so applicable. So by the way, how did you become blind? By the way.
Oh, by the way, I'm totally blind. By the way, before we get too excited in personal development, so it happened around 2 decades ago, Aaron. It started with colors. Just imagine this, everybody. Colors. Let's say the bright blue sky and the vibrant green of trees and grass, they all started to become more and more pale. That's what happened to me. um, Lines and shapes of everything and everyone that you see started to become blurry. I experienced a condition known as congenital myopia. What that exactly means, I cannot tell you. But the doctors say it's all about the optic nerves for some reason. So if you can see me, and I trust that you can, everybody. I think I have my camera on.
You do. We see
Yep.
you. So
Mm-hmm.
guys, most of us in the audience are blind. I have some usable vision.
Mm-hmm.
So I was born blind with
Mm.
glaucoma. I've had 7 corneal transplants when I was an infant, and
Oh,
I also
wow.
have a congenital heart defect,
Mhm.
which was repaired perfectly. Thanks to God for that. I can see
Nice.
you, but yeah, most of the audience are blind people. But of course, sighted people are welcome on the channel too, and are always
Yep.
welcome to guest here. But
Of
yes,
course.
Julius, most people watching this video would be blind, so most of them
Mhm.
wouldn't care one way or the other. But it is a very interesting place to start, you know.
Yes.
And I think
Mhm.
that one of the areas where I would like to inquire, and I'm
Mhm.
sure that you can give your wisdom and knowledge to me. As a teacher, I love giving others knowledge, and then I love receiving knowledge. I've
Yes.
seen a lot of posts around the blindness community, all revolving. They all have two things in common. They all oftentimes involve the stressful lives that we have today in result of, or in consequence of, or because of COVID-19. The
Mhm.
other thing that all of the experiences share is that all blind people around the world have a sense of stress, a sense of anxiety nowadays, and an overwhelming sense of loneliness.
Mm.
If you're coaching someone and they say, Julius, I feel lonely, I feel stressed, I don't
Mhm.
know what to make of my life, how do you use your skills as a transformational speaker and a magnetic mind coach to
Mhm.
help people understand the COVID-19 situation and the stressful lives that we have to overcome? Go.
Fantastic question, Aaron. You mentioned stress, you mentioned feeling lonely. This is how I would support somebody. First of all, I would acknowledge them for their openness and their authenticity. Not everybody would be open to ask for help. And I would acknowledge them for, identifying the emotion that they're feeling. It takes a huge amount of courage in order for somebody to admit that they are lonely and they're stressed, especially with what is happening. The next thing that I would do is to ask them to start from within. Oftentimes, when somebody is stressed, they would look for external things to cheer them up. They would stress. They would look for like external things, entertainment, food, people, circumstances. These are what people usually depend on when they're stressed. What I usually recommend is to start with themselves. Find peace in yourself. Find things that you can be happy with, with the life that you've been given. Create a list of things that are going well in your life. Find some time for yourself. It starts from within. And what I would like people to do next is ask empowering questions. Ask yourself empowering questions. Is your stress teaching you something? What is your stress teaching you? What is this loneliness teaching you? Is it teaching you to be strong? Is it teaching you to recognize the people in your life that you still have? Is it teaching your intuition to get in touch with these people? And then the final thing when it comes to stress and loneliness is to, once you've started from within, contribute. The best way to eliminate or to shift any negative emotion is to then step out of your head and help people, to serve people, to cheer people up. Put a smile in somebody's face. That's the best way. After all of the things that I would recommend, putting a smile on somebody else's face is the best way to shift those feelings of stress and loneliness. That's basically it.
It's a perfect response.
Mhm.
Absolutely perfect. So, usually when I do these interviews, I start by basically walking through,
Mm.
where, some growing up times for people's lives. So do you want to
Okay.
tell us, because clearly, you're a brilliant thinker and a brilliant person. And so, do you want to tell us about some really interesting, some really funny? Because I'm a very sarcastic. I love humor and
Mhm.
telling jokes. Maybe some really funny, or maybe some really interesting stuff that happened to you, growing up,
Mm.
that kind of shaped, who you are today.
Yes, fantastic. Well, thank you for your comment on, brilliant thinker and brilliant person. And may I say, Aaron, that it takes one to know one. You know what
Thank
I'm
you.
saying?
I know what
Awesome.
you're saying.
hmm So, milestones. Probably, I was born nearsighted. Actually, let's go back to the 80s, the early 80s. That's when I was born. I was born in 83. So I was born nearsighted. Um, my family noticed it when, oh, Julius walked into a door again, or, Julius fell down the stairs again. And I was, holding books and publications and toys very near to my eyes. So they noticed something unusual about this kid. So they took me to the doctor, and at the tender age of, I think, not even 1 year, 6 months, I started to wear eyeglasses. That's how I started. I was born nearsighted, so I had exceptionally thick eyeglasses, and I went to a public school. Well, you know how that would turn out. Um,
Yeah, I do.
Kids, could be very interesting to say the least. So I experienced, being treated differently. Um, I had to sit very near the board. Um, we used blackboards during those times. The chalk and the blackboard. I had to stand very near the board in order for me to see what's being written, in order for me to copy it in my notebook, which I always had to keep near me. So experiences. I would say this is where my struggles started, because being different, to say the least, being a nearsighted person, I experienced, being regarded as, somebody who cannot perform the usual things that sighted students would be able to perform. That was the where my teachers had a huge part in the development of my mindset. I was always, often not always, but oftentimes exempt from physical activity, not because I couldn't, but the teachers were just simply making sure that I remained safe. So it's the responsibility of the school. They're just, protecting themselves and the school. So in this process, Aaron, I would say that the challenge started for me. Looking back, it was where I developed these self-limiting beliefs. So that's the start of it. And then, high school, graduating uh, um, from that, and then going to high school, it was still the same. Always feeling a little bit different from my classmates, and from the teachers. What I would say is that I was blessed to have a brilliant support network. My family was always there for me, and providing support whenever, I had to read a lot. Being in high school, I had to read a lot for my homework. I had like, 5 books that I needed to read, and I could at that time, but being a nearsighted individual, um, my eyes would get tired very easily, and I was blessed to have, my father when he was still alive, and my mom to be able to like read things for me whenever I couldn't read anymore because my eyes were very tired. So education, the turning point that happened, I'm totally blind now. And that happened a few months after I graduated from high school. So as I've said, I was already nearsighted during that time. I had exceptionally thick eyeglasses, as I mentioned. And then it started to deteriorate. My eyesight started to deteriorate more and more. So it started with colors. It didn't happen instantly. It started with colors, started with lines and shapes, started with not being able to distinguish the bright colors, and started with lines, shapes, until several months I could only see shadows and shades of gray. So it was a huge turning point for me. Let me know if you would like me to proceed, or any questions at this point.
You're doing such a great job. I'm just hoping you're going to keep talking.
Awesome. Well, and then I mentioned, the limiting beliefs. It intensified. The limiting beliefs that I had were started off as whispers. Because you are nearsighted, Julius, you won't be able to do other things that other people can do. When I became blind, the limiting beliefs were actually screaming, because they were there when I was nearsighted. They intensified and became screams when I lost the little eyesight that I had. So let's just say I was in a dark place in more ways than one. Emotionally, I experienced anxiety. Of course, what's going to happen to me? I was only 16 during that time. I felt that I didn't have a future anymore. I heard of my high school friends. They were already going to college. And I didn't know anybody who shared my disability. I didn't know anyone back then. I didn't know any blind person. So I felt very isolated. Always down physically, emotionally. I rarely talked to people outside my family. There was a point where all I did was to listen to. I was into heavy metal back then, so it helped. That certainly helped. And I'm being a bit sarcastic here, but being depressed and listening to angry music, I don't advise it, not at all. But it was my identity back then, and I honor that because it helped me become the person that I am right now, speaking in front of you. And I would say one of the things that really helped me a lot was to allow myself to experience the most exquisite form of boredom. Aaron, boredom is actually a blessing, because where was I back then? I was totally blind. I didn't know what future lay ahead for me. I didn't actually know if I could continue my studies. That's how little I was aware of the opportunities of people with disabilities back then. I wasn't talking to anybody. I had a few friends coming over, but that was it. And boredom. So I was always, on our couch in the living room, and I just realized I was so bored that it pushed me to think, there's got to be something else for me than just watching South Park and listening to Marilyn Manson all day. So I started to ask around, what other options could I have? Back then, my perception was going to a regular college would be a huge challenge for me. because I didn't know anything about people with disabilities back then. So I heard about doing a home study program for as your college education. So that's what I did. I was so blessed to be able to have very supportive family that helped me, go to that home study that institution, that educational institution that provided home study courses. So I would get, printed books that I needed to read. And, I was very blessed, but my family was always there for me, reading for me the publications, the books, and, helping me write down the answers for my homework, for my modules, for my worksheets. I enjoyed it at first. I spent like almost a year doing that home study course. I really enjoyed the open schedule and the flexibility and being able to study whenever you please, and I didn't continue it. Then I heard about Braille, and my, the wonder of being able to read using your fingers. I enjoyed reading Braille. I have a huge respect for people who are proficient in reading in Braille. It's up to now, it's a wonder for me, being able to read it very eloquently. I learned the basics and I didn't continue it. So at this point, you might think, Julius, your story is less than impressive. You're doing all of these things and you're not continuing them. But here's where it becomes. Here's the turning point. The Braille lesson actually. Let's backtrack a little bit. The home study course provided awareness about the Braille system. A reading system for blind and visually impaired individuals, and it was through those Braille lessons, particularly my Braille teacher, from whom I heard about screen reading technology. And I couldn't believe it. Blind people using computers? Wow, okay. Because of my Braille teacher, I honor him up to this point. I give him all the credit for he was the reason why I heard about the screen reading technology. And during that time, as luck would have it, as blessings from God would have it, I heard about a computer school for the blind in the Philippines. That's where I'm originally from. A computer school my Braille teacher was aware that this computer school for the blind was about to start a computer course, a basic computer course teaching blind people how to use the computer through the screen reading technology. So that was a huge turning point for me. I quickly took action. Note that down. I quickly took action, called up the computer school and inquired and sent an application. And all the while I was I hope they accept me. I didn't know anything about screen reading technology. I was a bit anxious that they won't accept me because I had zero knowledge about screen reading technology. But I was blessed to be accepted, and it opened a huge golden door for me. The moment I sat down, I was already seeing shadows and shades of gray. The moment that I sat down and pressed the key, I could still remember. It was the letter F. When I pressed that key and the screen reading voice said F, it basically opened, if I could use the computer, which I was aware back then had offered, an immense amount of possibilities for people with or without disabilities. Imagine what I could do. I could write documents. I could send email. I could browse the internet. Before that point, the only way for me to browse the internet was to have a sighted person sitting beside me and reading for me the web pages. But at that point, when I discovered the screen reading technology, it basically changed my life. And I'm so blessed. I'm so grateful to, first of all, my Braille teacher. Well, first of all, my family, because it was them who stayed with me through my difficulties, through my emotional outbursts, so through my teenage angst and circus rage, so to speak. And also, for my Braille teacher, for that computer school for the blind, and for the people who develop screen reading technology. These people change our lives as people who are visually impaired. So from that, I was able to acquire additional training in order for me to become more mobile. So mobility trainings from other non-government organizations in the Philippines, coupled with screen reading technology, coupled with the acceptance of what has happened to me. I was able to eventually study in a regular college, taking up a course in computer science, and being able to finish that course with, mainly through the assistance provided by the screen reading technology, for the support of my family. And it was the reason why I was able to study, finish the course in computer science, eventually have work in informational technology, being able to teach other blind people how to use the screen readers, growth and contribution. Those are my deepest core values. And explore other careers. This is where I'm at right now. So, yep, that's basically the journey that I took. Of course, there are other humorous events, some of which I still remember, some of which I choose to forget, and some of which happened when, let's just say, I wasn't aware, or I was unconscious. There you go, my friend.
Yes, I am well. Everything you're saying is really, really, really resonates with me. So I'm significantly younger than you. Not that it matters. I was born in '91, somewhere in North America. It's a bit of a long story. I keep my location to myself, undisclosed, but somewhere in North America. And you see, this is why. Okay. And you see, this is why life, as we say, is unfair, because there's a reason I'm mentioning this, because it's very interesting. I studied international relations in university, and one of the things that I've been noticing lately is, birth location is everything. Fortunately and unfortunately, you know, there are blessings in life and there are blessings in disguise, but either way, there are always blessings, right? So,
Yes.
I was given a chance to be born in North America. You were given a chance to be born in the Philippines, right? So, that already, philosophically speaking, that already means that you had to overcome a lot more than me, and you had to overcome a lot more because, for one, your birth location; for another, you were growing up in the '80s and I grew up in the '90s, where things were a lot easier in the '90s. So, as we say,
yes,
life's not fair. But I digress. I love your story. It's true. And this is what we have to do, guys. We have to make the most of what we're given. we have to figure out, as Samuel Clemens tells us, I know you know this quote, you know what I'm going to say coming up, that there are only two
Mhm.
days in our lives that are important: the day we're born and the day we find out why. And
Absolutely.
often I'm asked, Aaron, if you could. I was interviewed by a fellow content creator just the other day, and she asked me one of my favorite questions. Aaron, if God came to you and said, Aaron, do you want to be sighted? The answer is simple: no, because I was born blind. It's up to me to find out why. Now, if God came to me and said, Aaron, if I could grant you a wish, well, I have tons of complaints. There's 1,000 things I want, but one of them is to know why I was born blind. So I'll keep
Mhm.
it. I'll accept it.
Mm.
It's fine with me. And that's what I tell people is, there's meaning for all sorts of things in life that we don't even understand. If we knew every answer, then life would be meaningless. If we
Mm.
invented a technology that made us live to be 200 years old, well, I can promise you this: we'll be even lazier and get even less done. So,
Yep.
that's the type of thing, that really, really fascinates me in studying the similarities between all of us blind people all over the world. Um, and noticing that really the experiences that we have are quite similar. Um, so, I love talking about these philosophical things, but I also love talking about jokes. So, can you give us a really funny story?
Ooh, let's just say when during the first
Kind of
few weeks.
give us like an like a funny anecdote. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, the end result here is iced tea splashed all over me.
Okay. Well,
Iced
before.
tea
Okay.
splashed
Well,
all
okay.
over
That's
me,
okay.
my hair,
That's
my
the
shirt. Yep.
okay. That's the punchline. Okay, but first, for a
Hmm.
joke, you need a beginning, a middle, and then the punchline. Okay. So start with
Well,
the.
that was the punchline. We are future pacing right here, Aaron, and the reason behind that is, everybody. I just want this is we'll the build up is going to be sort of a PSA. Okay, whenever whenever you take
Let me guess. You also do stand
okay
up, right? You also do stand up comedy, right?
unintentionally, but whenever you take a bottle of iced tea out of the fridge, make sure that the cap is on. Okay, because
Okay.
if you shake it, you're gonna end up with iced tea all over you.
Okay.
So that's one. It wasn't funny back then, but it is now. Looking back, you also have various witty remarks from my classmates in college. The most memorable of which is, "Hey Julius, nice haircut. Are you aware of it?" You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Well, it wasn't funny back then, but it is now.
It's like that's hysterical.
Yeah.
That's dark. That's dark
Mhm.
humor.
Hey
Yeah.
guys, I'm blind. I'm not numb.
Yeah.
You know.
That's
Mhm.
it. That's interesting. No one has
Mhm.
ever said that to me, because I'm very uptight about my haircuts.
Mhm.
They have to be
Mhm.
super, super, super short when I get it cut.
Yep.
So that's interesting. That's interesting. That's an
Mhm.
interesting sense of humor.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
You
So
know.
so then what? So then you kept teaching information, IT, and helping
Mhm.
these blind people in the Philippines, and then what? At some point, you transitioned
Yes.
into the speaker, the coaching, and the helping people. So let's
Yes.
let's dig in there. Go ahead.
Definitely. So um, I was at the point where I was able to finish that course, have a lot of fulfilling jobs as an instructor for blind people, teaching them the same technology that I learned. And eventually, I discovered the the concept of web accessibility. You know, as a blind person, it's always a challenge for me to go to a website for the first time and to realize that I'm not able to access it, despite of the amount of capabilities and functionalities provided by the screen reader, there are still some sites that haven't been made accessible or are not accessible. So that was the next stage of my career. I became an accessibility consultant. I was blessed. I was I was still back in the Philippines during that time. I'm by the way, I'm currently in New Zealand, um, in an undisclosed city. So I became, in 2006, I became an accessibility consultant, also doing trainings for, government agencies in the Philippines. That's where I started my advocacy, telling them about accessible design and about these international guidelines. And eventually, I ended up here in New Zealand, where I was hired as an accessibility tester for a company. So that is, currently I'm still blessed. I'm blessed actually to still be in that company. I started in 2012. Currently, 2021. Yep, just checking. 2021. I'm still I'm blessed to have this as, my my primary work. And then um, a few years ago, I discovered, hey, I am blessed. I'm already blessed. I'm happy where I am right now, serving people and helping them, helping high performing IT professionals who make the internet a more inclusive, open, and accessible place. And I was just reflecting, I'm blessed to be able to help people in this way. I have my core values, which are communication, service, and I realized one of the things that I'm really passionate about is to be able to help people at a more personal level. I love helping people. I love communicating with them. I love helping them get structure in their life. I love listening, authentically listening, Aaron, listening with the intent to understand, not with the intent to respond. I'm a huge believer in the value of authentic listening. And also, I'm a huge fan of personal development. And it happened, I was um, reading up on personal development books and programs, and I stumbled upon people who actually help people get from where they are to where they want to be with with just having empowering conversations with them, regular empowering conversations. And I, during the time when I was imagining, I'm blessed to have this work in accessibility. What could the next stage of my life be? Because as I've mentioned, one of my deepest values were growth and contribution. How do I want to grow as a person? And I realized that I'm still a huge advocate for accessibility, and I have started to reinvent myself as a person who provides personal development and transformational content to people to understand, to help them go from their current reality to their desired reality. So I acquired training in the, being able to um, articulate my points. I had to improve my confidence because people are going to listen to you if you demonstrate that you believe in yourself and you believe in the points that you're talking about. You need to be congruent, you know. I find that people won't pay attention to you if you speak as though, hey guys, I'm very happy to be here, and I'm so excited to discuss these points to you, and I hope that you're going to learn. Nobody's going to listen to you. So I had to improve my communication skills. I had to acquire necessary training. I had to have structure in how I help people. So that was the next part of my journey, being able to be proficient in the skill of speaking and coaching. And now I'm so blessed, I have some strategies that I have in terms of like getting in front of people, creating content that people can relate with, identifying the specific group of people that I'd like to serve, and just going out there and reaching out to people and providing content as well as helping people one on one. Yep. So there you go. That's this is the stage that I am at right now.
That's you, and that's
Mhm.
perfect. Well, okay. So, hmm, this gives me a lot of great opportunity to ask a lot of
Mhm.
great questions. What was the most unusual or unexpected client or person or organization that you have
Mhm.
had the privilege to help,
Unusual.
or
Mm.
unexpected?
Well,
Sure.
there are people who reach out of the blue, um, and let's just say that I receive um, opportunities to coach people who are in a completely different field. You know what I'm saying? Yes, I serve IT professionals in their 30s and their 40s. These include front end developers, visual designers, QA, quality assurance testers, anybody who's working in the field of information technology. Does that mean that I don't serve people out of who are not in this group? It actually means that I can still serve people. It just means that this is the specific group I focus on. Now, if somebody who who is a sports person, uh, if somebody in that particular field reaches out to me, I'd be very happy to help them. And I have actually. There have been, people in the let's just say the other industries that are very. I've helped people in finance. You know, they're not directly working on information technology. I have, similar to the previous example, I've helped people who are in sports, athletes. And I would say these are, um, not very, these are unexpected blessings from the universe. Because I've identified, I work with IT people, and at the same time, I seem to attract people who are outside the field of information technology. There you go.
Excellent. Great. Great. Okay. So, um, what are some observations that you have made that perhaps I admit I have overlooked as it
Mhm.
relates to these various blindness groups that we see on Facebook? And I have an inkling, I have a suspicion
Mhm.
how you found out about this podcast. I'll
Mhm.
tell you off the air. I think I know who it is, but
Mhm.
but yeah, but I can kind of tell who it is, but
Mhm.
yet at any rate, what are some observations you've made about a lot of the different, this overwhelming feeling of negativity and hopelessness that I consistently see in
Mhm.
all of these blind and visually impaired support groups that I may or may not be in on, social
Ooh.
media. and
Okay. Yep.
and
Mhm.
sure, and the reason I ask is because one of the things that I do is when someone's having a hard time, I help out the best I can. I say, well, if you want
Mhm.
to talk about stuff, a podcast is a great way. So I invite them here,
Mhm.
or I motivate them to start their own show. But
Mhm.
what do you think about all of that?
Mm. Ooh, okay. This is going to be a bold statement, but I believe in this and I'm going to stand
Good.
by it. Not all of the groups, but some of the groups that I've noticed um, come, some of the people in the community, in the visual impaired community, some of them have a tendency to come from a place of victimhood.
Yes.
It happened to me. This disability happened to me. They mistreated me. I was discriminated. And it's going to be a huge challenge to get out of that situation if you constantly blame people, events, and circumstances for what has happened to you. So that's my first observation. And, the views that I have are solely my own. And,
By the way, I completely agree with you.
yep.
So there are also
Mhm,
some of
mhm.
my views too. Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. Awesome. As I've said, brilliant minds think alike, my friend. The second one is the resources versus resourcefulness. Um, Particularly from from my homeland, and I was also in that state. As a blind person, I was always trying to find out what resources could I have, what support could I get. Resources always run out. Time will come that there will be you'll run out of sponsors, run out of organizations that will support you. Resourcefulness will never run out, only if you keep in mind that you have it in you. As a blind person, I had to be resourceful. I lost my sight. What do I do now? I had to learn how to communicate with people, because it's through communication, verbalizing, speaking, that I'm able to communicate with them. Because I recognize the fact that we live in a visual place. There are a lot of non-verbal communication taking place, and I don't have any access to that. So what do? I need to pull out the resourceful identity inside me in order for me to know, hey, I could still talk. I lack the resources of sight, but I had the resourcefulness of speech that involves speech. So those basically, what I would like, if you anybody who is watching this, if you whether or not you hear from me again, I would like to recommend that it's always about your being resourceful. It's not about the resources that you have. It's always about the resourcefulness that you have, that you always have inside you.
Sure. Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, I could not agree more. It's not about what needs to happen is people need to stop playing the victim and need to start being someone who is resourceful. Right.
Mhm. Yes.
But it seems to me that it's very difficult for people to get out of that frame of mind
Mhm.
once they're there. And
Yes.
yeah, yeah. Very good. So you're a content creator, you're a YouTuber. Or if you're not, you
Mhm.
should be, but
Not at the moment. I
you're
just
not.
use no, yeah. I have Facebook videos. I create. We have a private Facebook group wherein I do webinars and such.
Mm.
I've also experienced creating like short courses in Thinkific, but YouTube has always been one of the things that I'm very interested in, and one of the things that I like to explore, probably in the next 6 to 12 months. Yep, but go ahead.
Let's explore it. How about in the now? So what do you want to
Hmm.
know? So what do you want to know about YouTube?
Well, very curious about specifics such as technology, and it's more of you being a creative individual, what could you, what techniques or skills or belief systems could you do you have you developed in terms of like creating constant content, creating consistent content, you know? Because I've also seen your Spotify page, your Apple podcast, and you've been very consistent in like, is it like weekly content that you provide?
I
Because you
appreciate
have,
I appreciate the
yep.
kindness. Thank you. So
Mhm.
it's a very it's I appreciate that. For one, for another, it's very simple. There are
Mhm.
only three things you need to do if you want to continue being as successful as you are, Julius. If you want to get into the podcast and the YouTube, there's only three things you need to think about: your audience, your audience, and your audience.
Nice, love it.
That's all you need to
Mhm.
know. Now, as far
Mhm.
as the technical side, it couldn't be easier. You just link your Gmail account or whatever you have to YouTube, and then you pull, MP4s or
Mhm.
however you would produce a video and basically upload it, share it into YouTube. And then you practice doing it. And then over time, when you produce consistent content over a period of time, people find out about your channel from all over the world. And that's how channels build up. It is a painfully I promise you, it is painfully slow.
Mhm.
A painfully slow pace and slow moving process. Painfully so, but I promise it's worth it. I
Mhm.
promise. I promise you'll be even more successful on YouTube
Mhm.
than you could ever be, or that you ever are or were anywhere else. But
Yep.
all to their own, of course. But I certainly
Mhm.
hope that you take advantage of YouTube because it is the global platform, without any doubt.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yep. Gotcha. 100%. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can easily get into podcasting just through Anchor or, programs like that where you can just record and upload. I mean, that's
Mhm.
podcasting is an activity that is very easy, very positive, and very effective. So
Nice. Mhm.
that's why you should do it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Or
Awesome.
who
Awesome.
knows? Yeah. Okay. Well, that's so good. So what activities do you do, when you are not, um, uploading your content and things like that?
Well, for me, it's all about, getting as much sunshine as I can, which is, you know, brilliant because right now we are experiencing summer. Summer in New Zealand is December, January, and February. So
Right.
I try to be in the outdoors as much as I can. From being able to like go to um, lagoons here. There's New Zealand has lots of beautiful places. To simply just hanging out on the deck of our home. So that's what I do. I try to get as much sunshine, be in the outdoors as possible. I love nature.
Hmm.
There's a deep magic in being able to just be amongst the trees.
I
And
agree.
yeah, at the same time, I look after our daughter. I have a 3-year-old daughter. Her name is Amber, and I live, with my wife. She's also a relationship coach, and I look after our daughter, especially now. I'm on a final week of my extended Christmas/New Year holiday, and then on next week I go back to my IT job as an accessibility specialist. So that's what I've been doing. Reading up, reading, um, getting in touch with people back in the Philippines, communicating with them, helping them out in whatever challenges or concerns that they have, and exploring, making it a point to like do one thing at least every week that I'm not familiar with. Exploring the possibility of learning a new skill, learning about different things that I'm not aware of, getting to talk to new people such as your good self, my friend, and um, uh, having some time for myself, detaching myself from the world, especially as I'm working in information technology. It could be a little bit challenging sometimes when you're working with content.
Sure,
It's always, yeah.
sure. Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
Yes. You were saying how you work, with your work as an IT consultant. So now,
Mhm.
this may seem like kind of a strange question, but now, do you primarily work with companies just around your area in New Zealand, or is it just any country in the entire world?
Interesting question, Aaron. I work for a company here in New Zealand, and our clients range from local businesses to companies in the US and in Europe. So it's a mixed bag. I get to work with clients who are from New Zealand, and at the same time, I would say like 20% of the clients that we have are international.
Cool, cool. So what countries are they
Mhm.
from if they're international? The States, Canada, what parts of the world?
Yep, the states. There's people from the states. There's people from there's clients from the United Kingdom. Majority of the clients who are not based in New Zealand are from the states.
Right.
Mhm.
Excellent. Very good. And outside of your region, have you been to the States before?
No, I've never been.
Oh, well, you
Mhm.
should come to the States now. It's winter. You can be cold.
Mm. Interesting. Interesting.
Do you want to come to a place that's cold?
I do. I That's
No,
also one of the
no,
yeah.
you don't. No, you don't. No, the
Well,
question is no, you don't. But yes,
we
go ahead.
do have June, July, and August. Winter is in June, July, and August here in New Zealand. And it could be, let's just say, painfully challenging sometimes because
Okay, well,
the
wait a minute.
mhm,
Let's get this straight. What temperature
mhm.
do you consider painfully cold?
Ooh, 4 degrees. I don't know. Is that Celsius? Yeah,
Well, good,
something
because I
around that.
yeah, I only use Celsius.
Mhm.
Well, where I'm from, it can be negative 20 Celsius easily in the winter.
Okay, okay. Well,
So
yep.
4 is quite warm. 4 is
Mhm.
quite manageable.
Nice.
So
Okay.
yeah,
Well,
and so New Zealand would feel much warmer to me,
mhm.
probably.
Yep.
Yes.
Mhm.
What about in the summer there? How hot can it get down there in New Zealand?
16, 16, 18. Sometimes it
Oh, that's
reaches
not
20.
hot. That's not hot.
Mhm.
That's perfect. Yeah. So
Yep.
New Zealand is not hot. New Zealand would be to an American, it would feel like a mild place, a mild
Mm,
climate. hmm
gotcha.
Kind of
It
a
would be
tropical
most
climate.
interesting. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and perfect. Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
That is extremely interesting. Do
Mhm.
you like visiting the Philippines once every couple of years?
Yes. Yes. Before the pandemic happened, I did my best to like visit the Philippines at least once a year. So we visited very often, at
Right.
least in as much as we can.
I see. I
Mhm.
see. Well, that is all extremely interesting. What about tell us about if you want tell us about a hobby that you do that I would not expect you to do,
Hmm. A hobby that I do.
but I would not expect it.
Um, it's not exactly a hobby, Aaron. I tend to listen to Barry Manilow for some reason. It, Barry Manilow?
Nope.
No, okay. Uh, well, you're not missing out a lot, okay? He's a singer, an American, I think he's American singer who became popular in the 1970s. Yes, it is one of the things that, I don't actually listen to a lot of songs in that era, but him for some reason. Maybe it's because my father used to listen to him a lot, and it resonated with me. And so yeah, I tend to listen to unusual music that people in the generation that I'm in would not normally listen to. But hobbies, yeah, well, it's mostly reading. Um, meditation. I do meditation every day, and learning. I'm a bit of a geek.
That's great.
Mhm.
I'm a geek too.
Nice.
Welcome.
Mhm.
You know, I loved this episode. I don't know about you guys. So let me just say this. We are coming to the end of all of my questions. You've been a magnificent guest. And whether you like it or not, you really are part of this podcasting community forever because I will certainly want to have you on Aaron's Opinion in the future and know that you're always welcome and know that I might coerce you into recording a second episode at some point. But
I'd
until
be more
then,
than happy. Yep.
that would be so good. Know that that's a forever promise. I am
Mhm.
truly committed to the world and to every guest that has the courage and the wit and the strength and the sense of humor to come onto this experience.
Mhm.
I always like. I mean, you're really going to get a kick out of this one. I always like to
Mhm.
let guests kind of really finish it off. If you could
Mhm.
ask me only one question, a question to really make me sweat, for you to really know if I'm worth my salt or not, what
Hmm.
question do you want to ask me?
Oh, Aaron,
You only have one.
what is the meaning of life?
To help people,
Nice.
to educate people,
Yep.
to help people improve one day at a time.
Phenomenal.
If someone wants to get in touch with you, how would they go about doing that?
Um, you could add me up on Facebook, facebook.com/JuliusCharles19. That's my personal account. And you're all welcome to add me up there. I also have this Facebook page, facebook.com/Julius Serrano Speaker, JuliusSerranoSpeaker. I think I spelled that correctly. I hope.
Well, we'll see if people come to your page.
Looking forward to it.
All right. I tell you what, I'll put the links. I'll put your links I'll put your website in the description so you guys can click the link in the description for more information.
Fantastic.
You were an incredible guest. That was an absolutely amazing episode. All right, guys, I really hope you enjoyed that one. If you have questions for me or Julius, of course, you should just email me, Aaron's Opinion6 at gmail.work, at Aaron's Opinion6 at gmail.com. Apparently it works because that's how Julius got in contact with me in the first place. So the email address definitely works. 1240-681-9869. 1240-681-9869. Consider following on Facebook. Consider commenting below right here on YouTube. Consider following on Twitter and becoming a patron on my Patreon. I appreciate the support. Julius, I wish you very good health. I wish your entire family the very best of health. To everybody else around the world, very good health to you. And until the next episode, remember, there's one thing that's very important. As I like to say on this podcast, thanks so much. And help one person today, help 1 million people tomorrow.